Good morning. It's morning for me here, and I'm reacting today to Tori Olds. This is the therapy version of a reaction video to Tori Olds, experiential therapist, and I'm showing you this video. I'm reacting to it because Tori is one of the top three therapists that I've seen work. My name is Dr. Jordan Harris. I'm an LMFT, LPC, and my specialty is in two things: process coding and deliberate practice. Process coding is the science of watching tape, and deliberate practice is the science of skill acquisition. So I use these two skills to help therapists break down the skills of master clinicians and build those skills into their own practice. And I have watched a ton of tapes of therapy experts, and Tori is one of the best that I've seen. So I reached out to her, and she sent me a bunch of her demo videos that we're going to watch. So I'm going to queue up one of Tori's tapes. We've been watching through a series that she did on experiential therapy. Um, and I'm going to basically break down what she's doing that's unique. I want to give a really quick thing to say. I'm model agnostic. I'm not going to be commenting too much on Tori's model, but I am going to be looking at these other skills that she's really good at that I think really makes her model pop. So let's jump into the video here. And I'll share my screen and tape of Tori working with this demo client. This is her sister, so this is not a real client, but you see a lot of Tori's skill come out in this demo.
Right here. Yeah. You still with the sadness?
It's kind of good to hear you say that.
Let me make sure I have my sound right. Tori is, to give a little bit of background, this is the first session with this demo. So it's an intake session. And Tori is really keen on this idea of experiencing, that instead of having people merely talk about their inner world, you have them go in and actually experience it in the moment. So she's leading the client through an exercise to deepen her experiential awareness of her inner world.
We're right here. Yeah. Yeah, I am. And so are you.
Okay.
You're right with yourself. Yeah, this is a little different for you. Yeah, this is a little different for you to be really tracking yourself like that. So take your time. You can just be real gentle here, but see if it feels right.
Okay.
Like, see if it feels okay or feels.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels right. Like that
Okay.
when you said that, I was like, yeah. It's almost like it takes away the conflict or
Yeah.
the like
Good.
questioning I was having earlier, or maybe the judgment or something. Like now it feels like, oh, I'm just sad.
Okay.
Like it's just
Yeah.
sad.
Oh, I'm just sad. I'm just sad. Yeah. 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 So see how that is to just have that, like, oh, so simple, and just have some sadness. Yeah. You said it feels a little relieving.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What kind of relieving? What do you notice?
Like maybe this could be productive or something. Like maybe
Maybe we
there
could
is
actually,
something there.
Yeah, right. Maybe I bet you there is, isn't there? There is. Yeah, and that's okay.
So I want to point out something that Tori's doing here. Um, and it's this idea of sticking with the moment to moment experience of the client as it unfolds. What most of us do is we get very caught up in the content, what people say. Why do you feel relieved? When have you felt this in the past? And we sort of invite them to intellectualize. And what Tori's doing in this clip is she's helping the client to put their awareness back on her inner world in this moment and keep watching it as it changes. And this is important because the more clients can be aware of their inner experience as it happens in the moment, the more likely they are to have a change in counseling. Um, this, so part of this is our own skill, right? Do we see that difference? Like it'd be very easy to ask this client, When have you felt this way in the past? And then this client would take that and might take it and talk about something that happened, 3 or 4 years ago, which is different than what's happening in the moment with this client. The other thing that I think is actually probably more likely, um, is that when you're asking a client these questions, my experience is there actually aren't that many versions of the question, right? And so it can feel sort of repetitive to say the same thing again. But when you say the same thing again, you're actually deepening the client's awareness and you're deepening their experience. That sounds kind of vague. Let me show you an example of what I mean. So we're going to go back here.
Be productive. Like maybe this could be productive or something. Like maybe
Maybe we
there
could
is
actually,
something there.
yeah, right. Maybe I bet there is, isn't there? There is, yeah, and that's okay. And as we're with this sadness, it's like honoring it, caring about it, almost like as it's beginning to reveal itself a little, had the impulse to ask like, what is the first thing it needs from us?
So what is the first thing it needs from us? That's our sort of question to keep the client focusing on the sadness instead of going off to something intellectual.
Yeah, it's almost like it just needs attention. Like it just, like what we were doing was so,
Gotcha.
it made me realize how much I push this stuff down normally.
Right.
I didn't really know that there was something there. And now that I'm feeling like, oh, there's something there, it's something real
You want
under
to
it.
explore it now.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, oh, it just needs attention. And I
Wow.
didn't realize it was
It
there.
was there. Yeah. What's that like to kind of to have that sort of light bulb of like, oh,
And she reflects here, right? And then she also asks, what's that like? Um, I'm sure there's a few different ways to say that, right? What's that like? What happens when you keep your attention here? What happens now as you have your awareness on this sadness? But you're basically asking the same question over and over and over again. And I think for many of us, it feels like, do I just keep asking the same dumb question? Like, what's the use of this? But keeping the client in their process and asking the question again and again and again actually deepens the client's process. So I know it can feel sort of weird. And that's sometimes why we exit, right? We ask a different question, which invites intellectualization because because we feel bored with the question. The other thing that happens often, though, is that clients will begin to intellectualize themselves. So it'd be very easy for this client to say something like, yeah, I mean, I feel so much relief. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when I used to do mindfulness meditation and I felt so relaxed after that. And, like maybe I should do that again. What do you think, therapist? Do you think I should get back into mindfulness? And suddenly you're having a conversation about mindfulness. Um, and that's a choice point because that's two different things are sort of happening then, right? Sometimes clients don't know where we want them to focus. And so if our goal is to deepen their awareness of their inner experience, we need to redirect them back to their inner experience in the moment. Sometimes, though, clients are ambivalent about going into their inner experience. And that's a different thing we can talk about later. But I just want to point out the fact that if you're asking a client this sort of question of what do you notice, stay with that, go with that. What else does this sadness need right now? And you're feeling sort of like this isn't getting anywhere. Sometimes it's not that you're asking the wrong question. It's that the client is actually trying to intellectualize, right? And I think what we do then is we just make it really overt. So let me break this down for you. If Tori has said to this client, yeah, just go with that. And the client says something like, man, it just reminds me of when I was doing mindfulness meditation and, um, I felt so relaxed afterwards. Should I do that again, therapist? Which, what I would not say, which I've said this before, is, yeah, well, what do you notice right now in your body? Right? When we get into that back and forth with the client where there's this mismatch, what we say is going to feel really awkward to them. And we're going to feel really awkward. So you just redirect them and you basically give them a reason to focus on their inner experience. Hey, that's a really great question. And I think we should come back to that at the end of our session. Right now, though, my sense is that there's something happening for you in this moment that we really need to track. Can we do that? And so you're going back to the moment. Um, and the reason you tell them why is that these rationales we give are persuasive, right? They help to persuade the client to adopt our idea about where they need to go. And I know that's sometimes a controversial thing to say because honestly, sometimes we don't need to be persuading clients. So knowing when to persuade clients and when to not is a different, it's a whole conversation. Um, but for our purposes here, if you're of the mind that experiencing is helpful, which I think is backed by the research, and you want clients to continue to stick with their experience, this is one way to do it. Give them a rationale for why they should continue to sit with their experience instead of intellectualizing. All right, let's watch a little bit more of this tape. We're almost done with this clip.
This part just needs attention. That's what it needs. Feels better.
That's good. Okay, good.
Well, let's continue along with it then.
Okay, so that is the end of our first Tori Olds tape. I'm gonna keep doing these as long as you guys are watching them. I hope to go through the whole entire Tori series because, I mean, seriously, she's one of the best that I've seen in the demos that I've watched. Um, and it's really because she's doing a lot of processes. Like when I've watched a lot of the APA tapes, one of the things that the APA tapes often miss is the therapists, these expert therapists often aren't matching their intervention with the client's level of motivation. I think it's a big problem. And on the one hand, I think I get it. Like when you're on camera, having to demo your model, CBT, EFT, EMDR, like DBT, like whatever your model is, there's this pressure to perform. And so it's quite possible that a lot of these experts do things in these demos that they wouldn't do with a client in their own office. The problem with that, though, is that it teaches us the wrong skills. It teaches us to work against the client's level of motivation because that's what we see the experts doing. Um, Something else that I see a lot in these tapes is these experts often just keep intellectualizing with the client. Um, and I think sometimes it's because it's easy to it's easy to intellectualize, you know? It's very easy to fall into this sort of hypercognitive trap with clients, and it feels comfortable, especially if clients aren't motivated to do some of the inner work. So that happens. So I don't want to entirely blame these experts, but I do think it teaches us the wrong lesson because then we push and work against clients' levels of motivation, and we intellectualize, and we wonder why. Man, why does this therapy feel stuck? Why does this therapy feel stagnant? And it's because the training you received taught you the wrong lessons. Um, And that's why I think these tapes with Tori are so valuable. They're so valuable. All right. That's it for today. I'll see you in our second series of her demo tapes in a few weeks. Have a good one.